Today we're going to be trying something new. No, not really. Still in the shop. Still making a mess with my equipment. What I'm going to try to do today is I'm going to try to sharpen some end mills that I have. I have a few, maybe a couple hundred, which I got for a very cheap price, but the problem is they are all dull or damaged. So since we have a tool cutter and grinder, we might as well try to learn how this machine works and hopefully figure out how to sharpen some of these end mills and give them a second life. So the first operation I'm going to try to do is just sharpening the primary and secondary edges. We'll use a big end mill because those are easier than the smaller ones. And this grinding wheel should do a decent job. I used it already for another end mill and it seemed to work fine. It's pretty much end of life, but it cuts sharply and I think the edge is decent enough. So we'll see how it goes. Alright, so before I position the camera in a different place, let me give you a quick overview of how the end mills look like right now. This is one of the end mills that I think we can try to sharpen. I think it's cobalt or HSS anyhow. This grinding wheel should work fine with it. Maybe not the best option, but I think it's going to work. We will have to do the gashing as well, which is another operation. I don't know if it's better to do the gashing before or after. Well, we're going to see. We'll figure it out as we go. The side is still fairly sharp. I think it can still work without needing resharpening. I will address only the front face for now, the front cut. Okay, so what I'm trying to do now is I am positioning the stop for my table so that we grind right by the center line of the end mill. I'm just visually aligning it, and we can do minor adjustments once we start grinding. Now the next thing I have to do is I need to adjust the height in order to get our primary relief to have about 6-7 degrees, something like that. Okay, so let's put this one, now it's horizontal, that's the end stop on this tool holder. So now we are perfectly horizontal. We tighten the nut. There is also another thing that is worth mentioning is that this tool holder right now has got a relief towards the inside of the mill, the center of the mill, which is about 2 degrees. That's achieved by turning the base. This one is rotated a couple of degrees, so we have relief towards the center of the end mill. This was already set from my previous grinding operation. I'm not going to touch that because it was working pretty good. It was matching one of the commercial end mills that I had on hand. Let me get a calculator. We're going to calculate what's the proper height, and then I'm going to use this height gauge to locate the center of my, I'm going to just use it as a transfer, but we're going to locate the center of our end mill with this, and then I can make adjustments to the height once I find the center of my grinding wheel spindle. And we'll apply the necessary offset so that we end up having a relief of about 7 degrees on the tip of the end mill. Alright, so let's do the math here. Our grinding wheel has a diameter of 6 inches, okay? Roughly, it's a little bit more, 6 1/4 probably. Yeah, about 6 1/4. Let's call it 6. So if it's 6, it means that the radius is 3. Now, to know how much is the offset that we need to apply, we need to take the sine of the angle we want. So we want 7 degrees. We'll calculate the sine of that. Sine of 7 is 0.12. And then we multiply this by the radius that we have. In our case is, let's call it 3 1/8. So 3.125. Now that gives us an offset. This is the calculator I'm using. It's going to be an offset from the center, right? So if we consider 0 the same height as where the center of the end mill is, it's 0.380. So we need to go down 0.380 inches or 380 thou in order to obtain a 7 degrees relief angle on the end mill when we do the grinding. So we're going to do that now. Let me move out the vacuum hose here, put it on the side. So first I'm going to locate the center of this guy. So let me go down. Hopefully I can go down enough with this. So this is the center. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Now we're good. Let's check. We should be able to now approach our end mill with a proper angle. And it looks like we are. Okay. Looking good so far. Let me get closer. Touch off. Let me turn on the vacuum cleaner. It's gonna get loud here. Touch off. Okay. Let's give it 5 thou. Yeah, we need to go a little bit deeper. Barely touching off. Give it 10 more thousandths. Okay. More. Okay, now we're touching. Index to the next one. There we go. I don't think we're touching on this flute. To advance. Let me see if I can give you a close-up of this end mill. It looks great. Okay, let's move this back. The vacuum cleaner did a great job collecting all the dust. So for the secondary relief, I think we can go with maybe 20 degrees. So let's calculate it. And we need to do 20 degrees sine. That's going to be 0.342 times 3.125, which is our radius, minus 0.38. So we need to go down another 688. Another 688 from where we are right now. So now the contact point between our grinding wheel and the end mill, if I did everything right, should be about 20 degrees. Let's start the grinder and the vacuum. Okay. So step 1 is done. Yeah, cutting edges look very good. Now the gashing, of course, is not going to be right. And we still have a corner radius in here. I would have to grind way more than what I did to get rid of that. As a first test, this is it's gonna be good enough just to see if what we're doing makes sense or not. This is definitely not going to be a very good end mill because of this corner radius, which is not going to be ground anyways. But I first want to make sure that whatever I'm doing here is not wrong. So for the gashing, we're going to have to do something similar. We're going to have to calculate an angle of attack for the gash. I think we should stay about 25, 30 degrees. I'll shoot for 30 degrees, but this time we need to go above center line because the gashing will work in this direction. So we'll remove material between the teeth and create our sharp edge by going from the top side, going diagonally this way with our grinding wheel. So let me put on the gashing grinding wheel. So now there are two things I need to do because we're going to be plunging in. So I need to block my table in the right spot, which is slightly above the center line, slightly after the center line. We need to calculate what's the offset. So let's say we go 25 degrees. Let's do 30. 30 degrees, sine of 30 should be 0.5 times, let's see, what's the diameter of this wheel? We do actually need the radius, so I'm going to measure the radius directly. This is 3 1/4, so times 3 1/4, 3.25. We need to go above center line 1.625 inches. So now this should result in a gash at the very tip. Is going to be a gashing off with an angle of 30 degrees. That's what we calculated, that's what we should get. Okay, let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. We got the vacuum in place. This should work. Okay, let's fire up this thing. Okay, we didn't overheat the tool, the end mill. Let's take a look. We did the gashing. I went 40 thou shallower on the teeth that don't have center cutting, and I went deep enough to reach the center. Probably it's too much, but again, this is the first test. I'm still learning. I am not an expert on this. I just want to see if we can make something that works. This is the final result. I think the grinding looks great. This is the corner. This corner here in the middle, that's what I was talking about. This radius here is causing us to have this little bit of radius in the center. So it's never going to be a properly center cutting end mill. But besides that, to be honest with you, this doesn't look too bad at all. I might need to dress this guy a little bit so we can get rid of that radius at the end, and we can probably get also a better finish, nicer cut, but the finish is excellent here. It feels sharp. Again, I mean, there is a corner radius in here. We should have gone much deeper than what we did. But all the sides are ground. If anything, we cleaned it up a little bit. I changed the direction of the grinding wheel to do the dressing so it's easier for evacuation. Definitely looks nicer. I know we still have a radius in there, but I don't want to be too aggressive because, again, I don't really care about these end mills being center cutting. I just want them to cut, and I want them to cut well. Let me grab one here. I think I have more 3/4 end mills. Yeah, this one will work just fine. Maybe try to do a better job this time and see how it goes. Okay, so let's get this guy closer. So I can align the end mill nicely. I think I can give it a little more. So yeah, let's get a little bit closer. I'm going to use the wheel itself to line up the end mill just by touching off and then tightening the collet here. This will give us a nice reference, which is going to be definitely on center. So now that we have this guy in place, let me see, travel distance. Yeah, we're going to be within the range of our indicator. So, okay, it's going to get noisy again. All right, definitely cut much faster than before after this dressing. It didn't overheat, so yeah, the dressing helped. If anything, it's cutting better. I'm gonna set up the new tool that we just ground. Here it is. In case you didn't see it before, that's your end mill. Got our tool order. We're gonna start with aluminum. I'm gonna start easy because there is no way that my grinding works. We got a piece of scrap aluminum here, which is gonna serve us good for this test. Got about 1300 RPM, plenty good for aluminum. I'll put a little bit of WD-40 perhaps to help the cut. Just a little bit of WD-40. Okay. All right. Oh, this looks very nice, very promising. Okay. Let's give it, I don't know, 25,000 step of cut. Wow, sounds great. Seems to cut very well. Yeah, not gonna complain about that at all. Excellent. Let me show you from a better angle. I mean, I think this is great. This is absolutely fantastic. Really liking it. Okay, let's try to clean this up a little bit more while we're here. Next time, I want to try to sharpen the flutes. I have a well done air bearing thingamabob that we can try to use for the purpose. Never used it, so it's gonna be a discovery, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Okay. All right. I mean, I think for aluminum it's gonna work great. So that's already a success for me, Because if I can reuse the big box of end mills that I have and get this kind of finish on aluminum, I already saved a lot of money and it was worth it. Let's try on steel. Let's try on steel and see how that works with a piece of steel. This is a unknown 1018, perhaps. Not sure what steel this is, but it definitely is steel. So we need to slow it down way, way slower than it is now. I think I can try at 500, which is already fast. So that's the minimum on high gear. That might be good enough. Okay, let me lower the quill here. Touch off. I mean, even this sounds great. I'm gonna be honest with you. Okay, let me lock. See if I can use power feed. Yeah, something like that seems good enough. So a little bit fast. Like this, yeah. Let's give it a little bit more depth, because this was barely a touch off. So I'll give it conservative 10 thousandths. I just want to see how the finish looks like on the surface. I mean, it sounds great. Chips look very good. And the finish is equally as good as it was on aluminum, for what I can tell. I think we got a winner here. Beautiful. When it cuts on center, I can feel every fluid cutting, so we've got good symmetry. As expected though, I mean, there is a little bit of error introduced by the collet chuck, but that collet chuck is fairly straight. So here's what the finish looks like on steel. Again, I can live with this. No doubts. Really, really nice. For a worn, free end mill that I got in a box with 200 more, this is more than decent. Yep. All right, well, thanks for joining in this short video about sharpening end mills. I'm still learning. If you got any ideas or suggestions, please leave them down below. I'm happy to experiment more. I got plenty of worn end mills to play with, so there was nothing to lose here, and I think the end result is very, very good.